Oh boy. Wow. A lot to get to with this, what we just witnessed there. But welcome back, Devils fans. It is your host, Ace.
Oh boy.
Oh, I got echo. Hold on. I got the echo. Hold on. Always got something, right? Oh, welcome back, Devils fans. It is your host, Ace, here on Running with the Devils, where we are talking New Jersey Devils hockey all year long. Please hit that subscribe button, smash the like, share with a friend. Thank you very much. And Fitz came out of witness protection, folks. Tom Fitzgerald has emerged from his several-month-long stint in witness protection, facing select members of the media today in what I would say is a sort of bizarre setup. He was sitting at a table and there's people like kind of right on top of him, kind of a weird situation. And credit to a lot of the media that were there. They did ask some of the tough questions. I would have liked to see a lot more, but a lot was discussed. And give me a second here. I got to get a lot discussed during this press conference. To sum it up, it was another one of what you expect from a Tom Fitzgerald press conference, in my opinion. A man kind of stuttering, mumbling, and does not exactly exude confidence in any way, in my opinion. I hate to bash the guy, but, I do believe he is completely over his head. There clearly is no vision. And I do think, unfortunately, that this team will be going nowhere as long as he's still employed by the New Jersey Devils. I do think that is, and I think a lot of people have the same takeaway from it. But early on, we got another one of his, favorite quotes, the "it takes two to tango" situation. And I'm so tired. Like, that needs to be retired. I'm so tired of hearing that. Other GMs find ways to find trade partners, make deals. Continually talking about it takes two to tango is just so ridiculous. We understand that you need another team to make a trade, but other teams and GMs find ways to do it regularly, and we've seen nothing. Early on, also, another thing that I thought was very troubling was the fact that he said verbatim, plenty of runway for this to come together. Plenty of runway for this to come together. There's 36 games left. And while that is a good stretch of games, plenty of runway sounds like, 50 plus games remaining. There's 36 games remaining. And again, I don't like to live in the negativity and all that stuff, but I do and will always live in reality. And in terms of plenty of runway, I put out a video yesterday, I believe, where I talked about kind of the state of the team and what it would take for them to make the playoffs. And so in the interest of, plenty of runway, I put this graphic in that video. Some of you may have seen it. Some of you did not, I'm sure. But there's 36 games remaining. This team has 48 points. And it's looking like, based on what we've seen historically in terms of playoff standings, and this year with so many teams still in the hunt and playing well, it seems like it may take roughly 97 points or so to get a playoff spot. And if it's going to be less, it won't be much less. But let's just pretend, for the sake of the exercise, that it's going to take 97 points. Well, the plenty of runway that he refers to is 36 games. And here I've laid out a couple scenarios in 36 games for you to get the additional 49 points you would need to get you to 97 total points at the end of the season. And this is not easy by any stretch, obviously. The first one is going 24-11-1. The second one being going 23-10-3. Obviously, 22-9-5 will also get you there. And then there's obviously some other ones, with less wins and more overtime losses. But in the end, these are just three scenarios to get 49 points. And over this stretch of 36 games, there's plenty of runway. The New Jersey Devils will have to play 680 hockey. Now, is that impossible? Absolutely not. But it's definitely not likely, given what we've seen from this team. What have we seen to make us believe that for the last 36 games, they're going to play 680 hockey? 680 hockey is a phenomenal team. And 680 hockey over a whole season would be let me just do that real quick, 112-point team, which is a very good team and could in some seasons maybe put you in the hunt for a President's Trophy. But I mean, my God, 680 hockey over 36 games. I wouldn't call this plenty of runway. And Brian, by the way, don't let me forget, Brian. I see your comment about Kovacevic. I don't want to forget that, but I got to get into all this Fitz stuff first. But man, I told you guys, I saw that one. I did. Sometimes I get some of these predictions right. The Kovacevic one was one of them, but yeah, plenty of runway left. 36 games. They got to play lights out. 680 hockey for 36 games is absolutely lights out. And so to hear him kind of talk about, plenty of runway as if, anyone who's down or panicking about this team is overreacting is crazy. It's completely crazy. Okay, so I'm just looking at my notes here. He did say he would like to add up front. Well, great. We all would have liked to add up front for quite some time. But, it takes two to tango, guys. Like to add up front. Okay, we'll keep an eye on that. I don't have many hopes for that. And then Novo hit him with a couple zingers throughout. And credit to Novo. He probably asked the most hard-hitting questions of the attending media, I would say, as I suspected would be the case whenever this press conference actually happened. And he was actually sitting like directly in front of him, like face-to-face, sitting down. Again, super weird setup, in my opinion, but Novo came with the heat, and he asked about why rushing into the Markstrom contract. Why rush into that? And another question many people have had for quite some time. And Fitz said it was something they were talking about with his agent and whatever, since they traded for him. And it's like, we all understand that may have been a preliminary conversation, but like I always say with everything else, with time and evidence, things do change. Like, you don't need to have this concept that you hold on to till the end of time. Like, I understand that was talked about and something you wanted to do. And maybe he kind of undersold it. And maybe it was more of like he promised, which could be the case. And like going back, if he promised it, going back on your word would be not ideal in a situation like that. But he said it was something they had talked about, and there's no change for Fitz. Like, apparently, despite the numbers, I think someone mentioned the numbers. It probably was Novo, about how Marky's been struggling, and his numbers as a Devil, the whole body of work as a Devil are not very good. And that was something they had talked about. That was on the agenda. And so Fitz was not going to deviate from that. Then they asked about Quinn Hughes, which I knew that was going to come as well. They asked how close we were to getting Quinn Hughes and blah, blah, blah. And Fitz had talked about, they inquired on his services. A lot of sideways talk and trying to kind of extinguish the fire with the whole Quinn Hughes thing. We've talked about this before. There's been lots of stories out there and narratives and blah, blah, blah. And then another reporter, so that they asked about Quinn early on, but then another reporter circled back on it towards the end of the interview and was like, I just want to have this on the record. And then he said, could you have moved the money to make the Quinn Hughes deal happen? And Fitz looked at the guy and said, yeah. So I don't believe it. I will forever believe that he missed on Quinn Hughes because he could not free up the money. And if you truly could have freed up the money, then why did you not get Quinn Hughes? I wish that was a follow-up question. It was like, okay, well, if you could have freed up the money, then why did you fail to get Quinn Hughes? Why did you fail to execute what would have amounted to the most meaningful and largest trade in New Jersey Devils history? Because if you could have freed up the money, why did you not? No one asked him that. And I do think it's a bold-faced lie. I will forever believe he got caught with his pants down, wasn't ready for the call from Vancouver. And when Quinn became available, he kind of panicked and couldn't make it happen. I thought that was super weird. And for whatever reason, it seems like as an organization, they don't like the narrative that he could not make the deal happen because he could not free up the cap space. Like, in the end, what does it really matter? You didn't get Quinn Hughes. You fumbled. It's the massive fumble of all time. But I think they're trying to paint the picture, I guess, that, they didn't want to part with what it would have taken to win the deal. In their head, failing to get him that way is less of a failure than not having the money available. But either way, it's an all-time fumble. Quinn Hughes was there for the taking. We had the inside track. He wanted to be here. His brothers wanted him here. It did not happen. Life goes on. But I thought that was very odd. And I think it was a bold-faced lie. Because then, if that was also true that you could have moved the money out, well, it's like, okay, I'd assume we're talking about Dougie. It's the only thing that kind of makes sense. So then if you could have moved the money out then why hasn't it been moved out yet? Why hasn't Dougie been traded yet to free up that money to try to make another deal? Maybe you could find a second GM to tango with the freed up Dougie money, and then also stop pissing off our entire blue line. I don't know why people like to attack me, and it's all good, baby. I'm here for the scraps. But I had mentioned something on Twitter about that, and people were like, what are you talking about? What am I talking about? We have essentially 4 every game players on right-handed defense. Obviously, Pesci's never going to come out. And now in the past week, we've seen Dougie scratched and obviously disgruntled. Great response game by him against Minnesota, but that made that whole thing more of a distraction. And it is one of the things I think on the season that has fractured the locker room and has caused a lot of headaches, the whole Dougie fiasco. But he was scratched. That became a thing. They put him back in, scratch Nemo. I'm sure Nemo's pissed off. He probably still has some bad feelings stemming back to last season. Obviously, trying to get back from an injury this year, looked like an absolute stud in the making early on in the season before he got hurt. We don't need to go over all the dynamic, Nemo moments in what I would call a breakout year. But then they scratch him. I'm sure he's pissed off about that to get Dougie back in the lineup. And here we are today. As your boy Ace predicted after the last game, we're now scratching Kovacevic. Mind-boggling stuff. And it's just more of the same sort of mishandlings of every situation, in my opinion. And I'll circle back, to the defense thing in a minute. But, I mean, my God, you now have scratched 3 different guys inside of a week and have managed to piss them all off. Fitz was also asked, did the number of no trade clauses hamper your ability to make moves? And he said no. Like, again, these are just straight up bold-faced lies. Like, what are we talking about? So you're going to tell us you could have freed up the money to get Quinn and you just decided not to. Not believable. And then to say the number of no trade clauses did not hamper your ability to make moves is also super disingenuous in my opinion, because again, what are we talking about? So it all leads back to kind of the same thing. In my opinion, and I'll get to all of it as we go through all of my notes here. But to say the number of no trade clauses didn't hamper your ability to make moves, I think is lunacy, and I don't think anyone's believing it. I just don't know why. I don't know. It's just people live in an alternate reality, and the stuff that he says, it's like, dude, I don't even think he believes it, honestly. Or maybe he does. Maybe he does believe his own kind of spin. But wild stuff. And then at some point he was asked about his job security. And like I've told you folks, this man is bulletproof. He is going absolutely nowhere, at least for the rest of the season. Obviously, things could potentially change in the offseason, but I'm fully expecting him to be the GM next year as well. He does not have any worries about his job whatsoever, as evidenced by kind of the way he maneuvers and, all the things that he does indicates a man that is very secure in his job. And then someone asked, is Sheldon Keefe's job safe? And Fitz said, we are in lockstep. So I don't even necessarily know what that means exactly, but it certainly was an indication that Sheldon Keefe is safe, which I agree with, by the way. You guys all know, I think it would be disgusting for Fitz to be able to scapegoat Keefe for a reason, or to indicate that he's the problem with this group. The main problem, I think, is that Fitz is still the GM and he's put together a poor roster. And this group as a whole has shown that they are career underachievers. Those are the biggest problems, in my opinion. Now, you could get into the nitty gritty, and I know there's some people that still want Keefe fired. I think that is kind of misguided anger and whatever else you want to say. But I certainly don't think Keefe is the problem. And I do think the biggest problem is Fitz. And the other problem is the group as constructed is just not good enough. And that's kind of it. And then the follow-up to, is Sheldon Keefe's job safe? He asked about assistant Jeremy Colleton, Shaw, and Rogalski, and Fitz basically gave them they're all safe. They're all safe. They are all safe, and why wouldn't they be? Like I said, guys, it's unfortunate, but the playbook has been shown already. It's more of the same. We are not going to see any changes. It's hopes and wishes. And we're not going to see much changes. And we'll talk about in terms of players in a minute. What else here? He was asked about Dougie Hamilton, and was there a strain on the relationship? And Fitz went on to talk about how, there's no strained relationship and he's in constant communication with Dougie and blah, 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 and trying to paint a picture that there is no kind of rift there. I, again, refuse to believe that. He may be in constant communication with him while he seemingly is trying to trade him. But I certainly do not think that there is this, situation where there isn't some sort of bad feelings or rift between Dougie and the organization, because obviously he's kind of shown where his thoughts are with this whole thing. He didn't want to talk to the media after it was announced he was being scratched. Very short with his answers when asked about the potential trade that he may have vetoed a couple months ago or a month ago. So there's a lot going on here, a lot of interwoven parts, but Fitz claims there is no relationship strain. Then someone asked Fitz, does it frustrate you that you could have had all the players Minnesota traded for Quinn? And do you need to reevaluate scouting? Which I thought was a pretty good question. And it was just kind of more sideways talk. Nothing of substance in the answer there. And he said, that these guys are players in the league now, so it's different because the other guys are prospects. Just a bunch of nonsense. And I do think that is an indictment on scouting and drafting as well, right? I mean, Zeev Boom, very good player. A lot of people wanted him when the Devils had the ability to draft him. Instead, they went with Salayev, and Marco Rossi was part of that trade in that deal as well. So there's a lot of interwoven kind of overlapping elements with this, and it is pretty coincidental that Quinn was traded for guys that many Devils fans wanted the Devils to draft in those particular years. Let me see my notes here, but my God, it was just a very discouraging press conference, as I expected. Someone asked, is there enough diversity in the bottom six? Nothing really of substance there. Talked about Dodonov and blah, blah, blah. He was a 20 goal scorer, and we thought he could have done this and that. And he was still talking about him as if, he might do something for this team, it seemed like. I don't know. I thought that was a kind of an odd exchange as well, talking about him. Like, I don't even know that he should be an everyday player at this point. Hold on, guys. I got to step away 1 second. Now I'm going to get into some more of the points that that really pissed me off. Hold on. I just got back in 1 second. I can't wait to get into your guys' comments. I'm back 1 second. All right. Oh, stupid chair. This was the one that I think is going to piss off a lot of people, and the ones that sends my buddy Steve the Maniac into a complete tailspin. He said that getting Kovacevic back is basically like a trade acquisition. Like, what do you can not sell that to fans that aren't idiots. A guy that we already had on the roster and was injured, to consistently, he's done this before, to talk about injured guys coming back as if they're trade acquisitions is absurd. Patently ridiculous. No one is buying that nonsense. We know who we have injured. And guess what? Even when the team is fully healthy, we still need help. So to try to tell us that Kovacevic coming back is basically a trade addition is a slap in the face. That is a slap in the face to the fan base to tell us that getting an injured guy back is basically a trade acquisition. It absolutely is not. It's completely absurd. Completely absurd to talk about Kovacevic coming back as if it's a trade acquisition. Who is accepting this? Like, oh yeah, we were injured. We all know we were injured. Why not tell us that Jack coming back when he cutting his hand off? Jack coming back was basically a trade acquisition. Like, come on, man. It's ridiculous. That one really pissed me off. And then I guess he was asked something along the lines of, do you believe in the core? And would you consider trading someone in the core out to shake it up? And to no surprise, Fitz believes in the core, guys. Fitz believes in this core, and it seems as though they will be intact probably for as long as he's here. Now, listen, I do love the core, but I am long over it. I am not going. And he kept talking about by the way, in the context of all this, he kept referring to the Minnesota game as if like, they've played the last 20 games like that. Like, buddy, that was one game after we lost 4 and we're in 7th place in a wild card spot. Like, what are you even talking about? He really was talking about the Minnesota game as if that was like the standard level of play for the past 2 weeks or month. Like, it was one game. As it stands right now, that was an outlier. That was an overachieving performance for this group on the season. But it's painfully clear he is head over heels in love with this core, and he will not break it up. And unfortunately, while I love all the guys, and I've told you all, outside of bringing in some huge pieces to help, which I cannot see happening, because Fitz is the general manager and he won't find that tango partner first and foremost, but he is handcuffed with all of the trade protected deals, contracts in place, and the cap space. I don't see the big time pieces being brought in that I think would need to be added on top of this core to get them to where they need to go. And so because of that, I do think the core as it stands, you need to trade at least one piece out, in my opinion. I do not believe, as this team is constructed with this core, will go anywhere. Now, again, in previous years, I had thought, you bring in a couple big time pieces to add to this group. Could they get it done? Maybe. But it's not going to happen. It's not going to happen because Fitz is clueless. The majority of the team has trade protection and there's no cap space. And so there's no way to even bring those guys in while all of these core pieces are still here. And I do think it does need to be broken up, unfortunately. I do not think the long-term or even short-term feasibility of this team being a true contender will happen. I just cannot see it happen, but he's in love with this team on the ice. He's in love with the roster. He talked about how he loved New Jersey. Somehow that means he should be here forever when he was asked if he should still be the guy. And it was very frustrating because, as I predicted again, and this is not to pat myself on the back, but it's just to show how clearly predictable this man has become at this point, is that literally there are no changes, guys. All the coaches are safe. The core is safe. Everything's beautiful. We're a family here, and hopefully one day they get their shit together because there's plenty of runway left, and hopefully they make the playoffs. I mean, it's just a lot of just painful stuff to listen to. I'm getting towards the end of my notes here, and then I'm very, very anxious to get into the comments. Was asked if he was disappointed in Luke Hughes, and he said no. That's as expected. Like, listen, I've defended Luke forever as well. A lot of you people are trashing him unjustifiably, I think, in some cases, but he does have a ways to go, obviously, still learning in this league. Young defenseman, 22 years old. I do think he will be a great D-man, but I do not think that means he's above any sort of what I would call realistic or fair criticism. And I think there's plenty there for that. But Fitz was just, just kind of saying the things you'd expect. He's young and blah, blah, blah. And that's fine. I don't mind a GM defending his guy. Oh, another one. Someone asked if playoffs were still the goal. And he responded, oh, God, yeah. And then he said, I don't even look at the standings. What? You don't even look at the standings? What are we talking about? You are the general manager of a team that for the past 3 seasons, actually, this season and the prior 2, you are the general manager of an NHL team that for the past 3 seasons was picked by many pundits, writers, whatever, as a kind of top 6 or so Stanley Cup favorite. And Las Vegas odds, by Las Vegas odds, in terms of cup winner, have been amongst the top 6 for those seasons as well. What are we talking about? This team we were supposed to be living in the bright years, guys. These were supposed to be the bright years after a decade-long rebuild. This was supposed to be the years where they're truly competing for a championship, and we're no closer than we were years ago. In fact, we are further away than we were in 22-23. We regressed. We took steps backwards after a beautiful franchise record-setting season with 112 points in the regular season and a beautiful 7-game first-round series win over our hated rivals, the New York Rangers. We are nowhere near that level of team anymore. We've taken step backwards, and like I've said, windows can open and close pretty quickly. I do believe it's now almost closed on this group. Not quite yet, but 22-23, that thing was wide open, and now it's like probably 2/3 or 3/4 of the way shut, in my opinion. But to say you don't look at the standings is wildly, I think, out of touch with reality. Like, do you think people want to hear that? And then he followed it up with, I know we're on a streak away from being where we were at the start. Oh my God. We're a streak away from being where we were at the start? Yeah, sure. At that point, you could even say the worst teams in the league be like, yeah, we're only a 12-game winning streak away from being in a great spot. Like, what type of delusional fantasy world does this guy live in? I don't look at the standings and I know we're a streak away from being where we were at the start. No, we're not. Or I guess, sorry, if we went on a 15 or 20-game winning streak, maybe then we would be number one in the league again or number one in the East. A lot of you remember it seems so long ago, but the Devils were number one in the entire league for at least a few days. And then they held on to the number one in the East spot for quite some time before it all started unraveling. Chicago cut obviously was a big part of that. And let me see. Do I have any other notes here? There's so much stuff. But overall, he was asked about all the no move and no trade clauses a couple times. And it's another thing that he seemed to try to side skirt and pretend like wasn't a major issue, despite it being obvious that it is. Like, it obviously is an issue. But overall, I thought it was just another disastrous Fitzgerald press conference where he tries to save face. I truly believe he thinks he's killing it during the press conference. And it's like, dude, you're just proving everything everyone thinks about you. Unfortunately, there's no vision. There's no plan. No change will be happening. Everything is great. The core is great. The coaching staff is great, and so on and so forth. Oh, and Dano jumped in. Love to hear Kenny Danico's voice from the background. He was talking about how, sometimes, everything doesn't have, I think he actually said the word, not everything has to be kumbaya, and had talked about some of the cup winning teams. There was brawls in the locker room. Like, yeah, not everyone needs to love each other. Go out on the ice and perform. Forget all this other shit. But I think Fitz has never been part of a winning team, guys. Let's be real. He wasn't on a Stanley Cup winner, at least as a player. And he's made this kind of soft culture, soft identity. Like, and other players have talked about it over time as well. Like, maybe his no dickheads policy for Fitz is the completely wrong way to look at it. And I believe it is. You need some guys who are going to go out there and mix it up on the ice. And maybe some guys got to be not as comfortable, within the team. Maybe everyone is just too laid back and it is too much of a country club. The country club that he told us it was a couple of years ago. Completely insane, but nothing changed. If anything, my takeaway from it is really nothing. It was pretty much exactly what I would have expected from him. And my opinion hasn't changed on him at all. It couldn't have gotten much worse. And it pretty much was exactly what I expected. So there's no change for me. I do think it will be alarming to some of you who were a little bit slower to jump on the fire Fitz train. But I do think, some people that may have even been still somehow, some way on the fence about Fitz, I think this may have sealed his fate with them. But we'll see. We get to the comments. Jeter Toker, thank you for the super. Brad should be the odd one out. Too many similar players. This team needs a pest. I've talked about this before, and I love Brader. But it certainly seems that when you go by just, process of elimination, they're not going to trade Jack. So you take him off the list, right? Nico's the captain and a good two-way center. We don't have a lot of centers. So I think that takes him, out of the equation. And then you look at just when everyone talks about how soft and kind of pathetically weak this team is, how are you going to get rid of Timo Meier, the only bull you have in the top six? And I'm a little down on him right now as well. I would like to see him kind of get a little bit more visible in some of these games. But I do think a lot of that is a function of surrounding him with the types of players that he's surrounded with. I do think animals bring out the best in other animals. Get a couple animals around Timo and we'll get him a little more activated. But for all those reasons, and I agree with you, Jeter, it seems like when you go down the list that it would be Bratter would be the most logical of them. And I think you would get a decent return for him, whether it's in a package or one for one. And listen, and I love Bratter, and it'll be a sad day if he's traded. It certainly doesn't seem like he would be, but that does seem like the piece that would be the most logical to trade out. Kevin says, fire Fitz now. Brian, this guy looks so nervous. He absolutely had no answers. He must think we're all idiots. He's in so far over his head. I agree. But some people, some people will be, I don't know what the term would be. They would accept that press conference. But I think to anyone who knows what they're looking at, who's been following this team, took it as a slap in the face. Stick Figs, the status quo isn't good enough. That being said, I still fully believe in this core and this team as it is. Yeah, he basically said, status quo isn't good enough, but it's status quo. Coaches are safe. He's safe. The players are beautiful. Everything's great. No changes. Cheers to the 25-26 New Jersey Devils. I'm not surprised, though. I mean, I really can't be. Russian Ring says, missed this conference. Let's hear it, Ace. Give it to me straight. Well, you got to go watch it later for sure, but I think I gave my kind of Cliff Notes version of what we saw, and a lot of you are jumping in the comments here. Execution says, nerves for real, kept drinking from his water bottle. That's always been a tick of his. They've switched from Aquafina to body armor. I wonder if that was like a sponsorship change, but he's certainly changed. Brian says, what a buffoon. Devilman09, Ace flu game. Oh, what's up, man? Yeah, it's been a flu game for a while here. Collect records, totally in over his head. He looked completely defeated. The crazy shit is, I believe he rehearsed this probably several times. They probably did like a whole, like a mock run through, because a lot of the questions were super predictable. Obviously, I mean, this guy's been in hiding for months, so he was going to get asked about Quinn, that he was likely going to be asked about Markey, kind of his future outlook on the team. So a lot of it was predictable. He was probably in the conference room with some of the folks on the Devils staff, and probably did a run through to rehearse his responses, because he seemed very rehearsed, in my opinion. Now, the answers were still terrible, but they seemed rehearsed. Pirates, sound like ownership put him out there for damage control, so it sounds like a lot of word salad. I mean, that's pretty much all what you get with Fitz. And it's unfortunate. I do think they probably are trying to cut down on the animosity felt by the fans. And for some people, it may have worked, right? Like, some people may not be as angry as they were. I do think those people are in the vast minority. And I do think a lot of people want to see this man gone in the worst way. But we will see. Louis, thank you for the super. I wish Novo had asked about the country club comment. He sort of had rough fall on that sword, but from outside looking in, GM sets the tone. Completely agree. I don't think anything has changed in that way. And it's problematic. I do think, beyond the roster being flawed, I do think this once proud franchise has lost its way in terms of a winning culture and identity. I just cannot see it. There's nothing to indicate to me that there's anything there. It just kind of seems like a bunch of individuals, granted many of them skilled and whatever else, but the country club thing certainly seems like it's still here. And he's the one that told us about the country club thing. He's the one that said this is a country club atmosphere. He said it falls on him. What has changed since that time? I would say nothing. Completely agree. It really starts from ownership down, but a lot of ownerships are more hands-off. And so in terms of pure hockey and stuff, you can say that it starts with the GM. And what has he done? What has he done? It is a totally fair question, Louis. I would say nothing. All right, so back to this, Brian. Yeah, wild, right? I did nail this after the last game. And it's a messy situation, and it all goes back to Dougie still being here. And listen, I like Dougie, guys. You guys know that. I will forever reiterate, I do like Dougie, blah, blah, blah. But the reality is, where they are now, he has become expendable. And then with all the rumors and stuff getting out and the potential, locker room dynamics of all this, he has to go. We need his spot for Kovacevic, or whoever you want to say, but we need his spot on right D. and we need his $9 million. And so he is the odd man out. I really did believe we had seen him play his last game for the Devils. When he was scratched the first time, I was like, okay, they'll probably find a way to trade him within the next few days or so. And that's it. We've seen the last of Dougie as a Devil, but no, they find a way to piss off Nemo. They scratch him for the Wild game. And in comes Dougie Hamilton. And to Dougie's credit, he had an amazing response, 2 massive assists. Great game for Dougie, and we won the game. But there's no future for him here. You've told us all now that you're actively trying to trade him. He has 1 foot out the door, and so for whatever reason, you put him back in the lineup and piss off a kid like Nemo, who you've already kind of messed with in the past, to have Dougie in the lineup. I just don't understand. Philip says Pesci scratch next game. No, I don't think you'll ever see that. I think it will always be a rotation for as long as Dougie is here. Maybe it will just be Dougie and Nemo, or maybe all 3 of Dougie, Nemo, Kovacevic, and we'll find out. But it's crazy. David Chimes, thank you for the super. He says, Fitz, number 1 problem, but no offense. Keith, number 2 problem. Here's my thing with this, David. My issue with this, Fitz is definitely the number 1 problem. These guys generate a ton of chances every game, and so people could say whatever they want about Keith and his system and blah, blah, blah. But if you're getting tons of chances every game and you just cannot score, how can you blame Keith for that? These guys have had breakaways, 2-on-1s, in tight opportunities, rebounds, like all kinds of chances. And again, I hate the advanced analytics for the most part, but there was a graphic going around a couple days ago where I think it was like over the last month or something, the Devils were like minus 20. They were last in the league, obviously, minus 22 goals above expected or something. And it was like significantly worse than the next team on the list close to us. Like, when you cannot bury chances and there's plenty of them every game, it's hard for me to point the finger at Keith. Like, these guys cannot score for whatever reason. But I understand people pointing the finger at Keith. It's a product of what's going to happen when the team struggles so badly and their 5-on-5 numbers are terrible, and I get all of it. But I blame the players for all of this more than anything. Pirate Tijuana Joe says, 36 games in a compressed schedule with a bunch of teams above us. Yeah, it's not an easy road to get back. David Fitz, I take responsibility except when asked about specific mistakes that I'm responsible for. It's wild. Phillips says, I do believe 93 points will secure it. Still a chance, but not likely. Even at the 93-point marker, I use 97 to be a little bit on the maybe round up side. But 93 points is still going to require this team playing a very high level of hockey for the rest of the season. Like, there's no way about it. You have to play super high level of hockey consistently. Half Naked Frankenstein, Fitz is so embarrassing, especially with the blue jacket. You didn't like his blue jacket? Devil's Den, Fitz simultaneously. Oh, what's up, Austin? My man Austin, go check out his channel, Devil's Den Hockey. Fitz simultaneously attempts to say things are bad, but doesn't want to make changes and stick with the same team as is, working the phones. Yeah, it's like, oh, hopefully we just figure it out. Coaching staff is all here. The players are all here. More specifically, the core is not going anywhere. So, for fans to watch this and have any reason to believe things are going to get better, it's crazy. David says, great point. Only one team this season has a record over 680 on the season. Not impossible if you get hot while some teams pack it in late, but real tough. Yeah, 680 hockey is no joke. No joke whatsoever. Stickfix says, Kobe, file a grievance, I beg you, and we all deserve better than the bald man. I don't think there's anything to file a grievance over, being a healthy scratch. Now, if he did want to sing like a canary, I do imagine he was healthy and ready to come back probably for at least a week or two before he was activated, when randomly all of those coincidences came together for Fitzgerald on the same exact day to help his cap situation to bring Kovacevic back. But Stefan Nason gets, getting a surgery, and McEwen got a surgery. Half Naked Frankenstein, it's crazy the team keeps using the good team phrase when they are in the basement. Completely agree. It's like, you're a good team on paper, maybe, and in theory, you were a good team. You have 48 points after 46 games played. You are not a good team. You aspire to be a good team, maybe. Maybe some people delusionally believe this is a good team, but you certainly are not a good team. I agree with you. When I hear that, Half Naked Frankenstein, I'm like, you're a good team based on what? Because you have some good players? Having some good players doesn't make you a good team, and that's evidenced by where they are in the standings right now. Absolutely. Absolutely. Robbie's bench toss says it's Tom keeping his word. He's the reason for the country club. I think so. It starts at the top. He certainly seems to be, the one setting the tone here. Show Talk Fitz is up there spewing blatant lies at times. It's so embarrassing. Devil's Den, hey Fitz, Markey is a sub 900 goalie. Sarandos, this guy had more excuses than my wife. So it seems like most people's reaction to this was pretty poor. The Shadow, the whole thing was clearly a last-second decision to try and keep the fan base from chanting Fire Fitzy all night long, if I'm being honest. I think that's true. Hold on, I got to blow my nose. I'm dying, guys. Flu game. Now, did he realistically say anything in that press conference that would warrant people from to stop them from chanting Fire Fitzy? If anything, again, like I said, I've been pretty I don't know what you want to call it, but I've been pretty well tuned into what this man is at this point. A lot of people are late to the party, but it did not surprise me whatsoever. And I probably could have predicted most of his responses pretty close to what he had said, because at this point he is a predictable person. And so it did not change my opinion of him either way. It was literally exactly what I expected. But does anyone think that that would like calm some people down and prevent them from chanting Fire Fitz if they were planning on doing so? If anything, I think that may have solidified to a lot of people who were kind of unsure but skeptical about him. I think that press conference would have solidified the fact that he is not the man for the job and that this team is going nowhere as long as he's here. But I don't know. Robbie's bench lost his core, won a playoff series 3 years ago, so we know they could be a good team. Yeah, a single playoff round. Using a single playoff round as any sort of indication from 3 years ago of the future. The 5-star, thank you for the super. Fitz has to go. I think everyone in NJ has to go. Fitz definitely has to go. I don't know what you mean by everybody. I guess you're talking about coaches and things, but like, I still think it would be unfortunate for Keefe to, be friendly fire kind of casualty and all this. And I certainly understand if it does happen, if Fitz is gone as well. I would be fine with Keefe getting the boot, although I do think he's a good coach, and I do think he's been failed by the GM and the players. But allowing Fitz to stay and firing Keefe would be nauseating, and I think criminal behavior. But I can certainly understand the people that want to see sweeping changes across the board. But here's the reality is, as I've been saying for quite some time now, and he basically confirmed today, there's no changes. This is the team. This is the staff. And round we go. Pirate Tijuana Joe, imagine if Fitz were a GM in a big market, there would be a 911 call for him having an aneurysm. If Fitz isn't gone before the draft, then ownership doesn't really care about this team. I would say the fact that he's still here already proves that about ownership to me. I don't know that canning him in the offseason before the draft would change much in my head towards ownership, because they've allowed this to go on. Like, this guy clearly isn't going to get it done. This clearly is not going to get it done. Now, could they have some awakening in the offseason after the Devils missed the playoffs? It's possible, but I think the excuses are kind of already there. They're going to use the injuries and some other things. And I just don't see any of the meaningful changes coming about. And I think he's one of them. I think he's going to continue to be the general manager of this team. But I guess that'll be the final straw for you, Pirate. When he finds a way to butcher another draft day, that'll be the proof that you're looking for. Phillips says, I agree. Ace, the Hughes answer and the Markstrom answer don't make sense to me. None of it makes sense. Yo, Holmes, I've been asking everyone, what is depth scoring? Insane Pollock, if this team plays bad tonight, watch the boos and Fire Fitz come out real fast. I don't know that the Fire Fitz is ever going to happen. I have said before, I do believe a good portion of the fans that are attending these games are somewhat clueless to kind of what's going on behind the scenes. Now, maybe it's obviously not everyone, but maybe some of the more in tune people will start these chants and maybe some people will kind of jump on. But it's completely warranted at this point, regardless of how they play tonight, regardless of his little press conference today. Like, I'm curious to see if it happens. Yeah, Nemo is the same agent as Hamilton. That's kind of become a thing in the past couple of days. Yeah, watch Nemo is. I've talked about it before. I do think he would have been traded in the Quinn Hughes deal, and I would have been fine with that. But I hope he's not traded for some nonsense deal because he's going to get a big payday after this season. Show talks at that press conference maybe want Fitz fired even more than before. I think it's going to have that effect on a lot of people. I was already at max kind of displeasure with him, so it didn't change anything for me because, like I said, it was pretty much exactly what I expected. Tito, thank you for the super. I don't see a comment, so I'll see if there's another one. The 5-star, a pure rebuild is in place. I think Nemitz is our keeper. Interesting that you think 5-star, and it's going to take me a minute to get down to the bottom, but do you think it's time to embrace a full rebuild versus a retool? I'm very curious. And we might be there, but this guy's in love with the core, so that's clearly not happening. It's actually the exact opposite of a rebuild. Is this group is it. In love with the core. Man, if you're just joining us, we're here reacting, taking your comments here on the Tom Fitzgerald press conference that we've all been waiting a long time for. Insane Pollock, likable guy, but bad GM. That's kind of where I'm at. Like I said, like I don't think he's a bad guy. Would love to have a beer with him. Don't want him in charge of my hockey team. Fitz is taking it day by day. Rabid monkeypox. I'm going to take a shower to wash Fitz's stink off of me. David, they would have fired Keefe before the press conference if they were. For sure. He's here. I'm fine with that. I know a lot of you aren't, but I don't think he's the problem. Jeremy Proper says, Fitz can say whatever he wants about the Quinn fumble. We will never know the truth. I completely agree with that. All right, I gotta skip ahead here. I'm super behind. Insane Pollock season ticket renewal continues to falter. I believe that's going to be a thing. You know, why are people going to lock themselves in financially and time commitment wise to a team that is fine with these? They're not even mediocre results. They're poor results. Mediocre results would be an upgrade. These are poor results. Cape Dweller Keefe just doesn't seem to be a motivator. He couldn't get a talented Toronto roster into the second round, and he isn't rallying this team. I can understand that point, but at some point, like these aren't 12-year-old kids, man. These are multi-millionaire professionals. Like, motivate yourself. You can't motivate yourself, and I can, like I said, I can understand your point, but at some point, people also have to put a lot of the onus on these players that are doing nothing. And St. Paul, again, another heater coming just to show hockey makes no sense. I got to skip ahead. We're super far behind here. Jared Barnes, the press conference was a joke. Mr. Snowford, watching the presser, I was thinking how Ace's head was exploding. Fitz is so out of his depths. It is clear that nothing will be done. Maybe we get a blah forward, but this team is it. Yeah, like I've also said from months ago. You might get another Sprong-esque type addition, and that's going to be it. Brian J., the boys better come out hard tonight and win. Otherwise, the season could officially be over. Stevens forever. Sup, Ace? I think Fitzy was thinking he's going to get Quinn regardless when he signs or when he's a free agent again. So he's being patient instead of trading players. Dollar Tree mentality. That ain't happening. And first of all, Fitz is still here when Quinn is a free agent. I'll be furious. That'll be July 1st, 2027. But as I've said from the day I saw the Quinn Hughes press conference, he's not coming to New Jersey. It's a wrap. Billy Guerin will keep him in Minnesota. Yo, Josh says, don't worry, Fitzy's work. Don't worry, guys. Fitzy's working the phones. Smokey Arcade, Fitz is a moron, to put it nicely. Yobin says it was very odd seeing the reporters sitting next to Fitz like he wrote their questions. He definitely didn't write their questions because I'm sure he didn't like a lot of them, but I do think, that was a weird setup. I don't know that I recall ever seeing that. Like a situation where they're like sitting at a table and there was a guy like kind of behind him to the side. Super odd. But he definitely got questions he did not like, but he was prepared for them. I do think he did like a little run through. Tito, thank you for the super. What are your thoughts about Quinn Hughes stating he wanted to be traded to Detroit? No mentioning of NJ at all. Was that a quote from Quinn? I did see the thing come out that Steve Yzerman did not want to trade for Quinn without an extension in place, which is certainly reasonable. And I thought one of the reasons why I thought the package for Quinn may be less than what some people were expecting, because there is a very big difference between getting a guy as a 2-year rental versus a guy you're going to have for 2 years at a very, very good cap hit and an extension in place. Very different. And so I could see a guy like Yzerman being like, look, would love to have him here, but I'm not going to part with all of these assets if I can't get the extension. And I don't blame him. And I did see those kind of things coming out about Detroit. Was there an actual quote from Quinn on this? Pirate T1 says TF is out in deep water without a life vest. Michael, owners don't want to spend money. Certainly seems to be the case. Insane Pollock calling it now. The moment a Quinn extension in Minnesota is announced, Fitz gets fired. I don't think that'll happen either, but I am curious to know if Fitz told ownership, because obviously ownership wants this marketing, the attention the team would get from all three Hughes brothers, the marketing dollars, all the things that come with it, are all things that this ownership group would fawn over. So I'm sure they really wanted it to happen. I am wondering if Fitz reassured them that despite not getting him now, that he will be here in free agency. I'm very curious if he kind of pitched that as a thing. Bill says his team ain't winning with 4 Hughes brothers. Rip Rogers, Smokey Johnson, Fitz is a joke, and the ownership is a clown show for letting him keep running things. I have to agree. Devils Den, the only members of the core that should be leaving the team is Meyer and Mercer. I have to disagree. Just because this team is super soft, Timo would not be one of the ones on my personal radar. And I do like Mercer, and I actually wouldn't even consider him part of the core, to be honest. But in a right deal, I would trade Mercer. I wouldn't trade him for the sake of trading him. Now, if there's a deal where you can improve this team, I certainly would look at it. And I'd look at that with everybody. To me, there's no one untouchable. No untouchables. Alex says we are going nowhere with Fitz. David, Fitz really needs to go. Louis, Fitz is going down with this ship like Shanahan did in Toronto. He is married to this core in the same way. It certainly seems that way, but at least in defense of Brendan Shanahan, that core, I will say, was substantially better than this core. Let's be real. There are some similarities, but I could way more understand Shanahan being married to that core than Fitz being married to the core that's in place here. Very big difference, in my opinion. Brian says, when Fitz said Kobe coming back was a trade acquisition, coffee shot out through my nose. Yeah, to talk about injured guys coming back as if they're trade acquisitions is a complete insult and a kick in the balls to fans that are like, what are you even talking about? We all knew this guy was injured. You cannot count injured guys coming back as trade acquisitions. It's completely ridiculous. Completely ridiculous. Travelin says Fitz has been watching a lot of state media to learn how to BS like this. He was rehearsed. It was definitely rehearsed. Is Fitz going to bring in Kovalchuk from retirement? I don't think so, but primetime Covey, wow. What a time. Show Talk says Fitzgerald really thought he cooked that press conference when he poured gas on the fire. I thought he did. We'll see how this plays out in terms of fan perception. I do think it didn't do anything positive. I just don't see how anyone could have watched that and been like, this guy's the guy for the job. B now, are you benching Luke getting $9 million, or are you benching Nemitz with no contract? Well, Luke's never going to get benched. Are you talking about on a game-by-game basis right now? I would bench Dougie until he's traded. I'm not trying to piss off guys that are going to be here long-term. Luke is not getting benched at all. That is confirmed. Chad, he mentioned a few times that his job is not just about the on-ice product, but other team functions. I wish they would have asked if he was spread too thin and need to hire someone else in that case. That would have been a good follow-up question. He wouldn't have given anything substantial there either, but that certainly would have been a good follow-up question. David Chimes, in Fitz's world, I need a guy to get injured so he can come back and it's like a trade without me having to give anything up. I'm sending the team to hibachi chef school next offseason. If you don't look at the Robbie's bench style says if you don't look at the standings, you need to be fired. I mean, I don't know how you don't look at the standings and tell people that. B now says Dano says he never checks standings. Isn't that a common hockey guy comment? That's perfectly fine from players. Perfectly fine. And a lot of players have said that. For a general manager to say it is maniacal. Completely maniacal. Players and general managers, totally different world. Pirate Tijuana says we are further and we have regressed. He misjudged the room and failed. Completely agree. We are definitely further away from contending than we were in 22-23. Hoping and wishing. Cape Dollar, if you looked at the standings, he'd realize this core isn't getting it done. Rapid Monkeypox, I'm going to watch this on the TV in the office. Peace out and total Fitz fire. Cheater Choker says there's a brawl in the locker room. Our top 6 will end up in the hospital. Yo, Holmes, getting back an injured player is just like making a trade. I don't look at the standings. Yeah, it's pretty wild. B now says Dano, the voice from above, like God in that presser. Yeah, it was funny. I wasn't expecting that. When I heard him, I'm like, oh man, what does our guy Dano have to say about all this? But it's been, a rough season, and things like this don't make it any easier. Or Dubs is like, you knew that Quite was coming with guys getting back as like a trade. It's almost the exact same thing. David S. Ace, what's up? What a disappointment. I got so excited after seeing Fitz address the media. And after the first 3 minutes of him throwing himself under the bus, I could tell it was going to be more lies. Yeah, it's unfortunate, but I don't know what you guys were expecting. I was expecting exactly what we got. The 5-star, thank you for the super. We messed up on getting Tage when Buffalo sucked. One of my top targets, obviously. I don't know that, it would have been possible. But as many of you know, he's been high on my want list for a long time. And I thought he would have been, the exact kind of guy that this group needed to improve. The reality is nothing's going to change. We just saw the press conference and it sucks. But the identity of this team is what the identity of the core is. And it's just not what it needs to be for winning hockey. And it's super unfortunate, but he's married to it, like many of us suspected. Nothing is going to change. We are not going to see any changes really of substance while this guy is still here. Justin says, surprised none of the questions were about Nico Dawes. I think just because there wasn't enough time. I think if he stayed out there long enough, eventually people would have gotten to that. But in terms of some of the other stuff, there was far more pressing topics to hit on. So I think people kind of, prioritize like that. Like, listen, we don't know. He could disappear at any time. Let's get him. Let's get the, the most pressing questions out there beforehand. And Nico Dawes, for me, in a situation like that, would be far down my list personally as well. And I thought most of the people there did a pretty good job. I did think there was some missed opportunities to ask some other things, but they did ask him about a lot of stuff that he certainly did not want to talk about. I'm skimming here. Pirate Tijuana, I'm sure they're getting a lot of calls from ticket holders selling and canceling out. They're in full spin mode. I mean, this is what happens when you insult the paying customer. And I believe when he had that press conference today, I believe it was more insults to the paying customers. Oh, yeah. Thanks, Jeremy. Hit the like for your boy and this depressing 25-26 Devils team. Red Devil says, I was sleeping. Did they show any shots of the crowd preparing the spit and bonfire for Fitz? Get Don out there in a devil costume. Once we're done roasting him, put a pitchfork in this one. He's done. David, after hearing these unsettling answers, I feel there's more of a chance Fitz won't trade Dougie by the deadline now more than I did when he was scratched. Probably, right? And then what? We just rotate who's going to be out of the lineup. It's kind of crazy. And the soap opera continues. I mean, I do feel like at this point you're at the point of no return where Dougie must be traded. I just don't see any way around it. And if it takes till the offseason, that'd be pretty wild. Jeremy Proper missed me some Uncle Lou about now. About now. Jeremy, I've been missing Uncle Lou for years. For years. Corey, why did nobody ask why Luke isn't held accountable when Nemitz is? That would have been a good one. I would have liked to hear something on that topic for sure. Pirate, it's this committee's think mentality, and all they got is spin. Well, this is exactly what I said last game. They're using the excuse Kovacevic is coming back from injuries. They're taking it easy on him. Okay, well, what stories are you going to come up with in a week or two? What is the narrative going to be then? Randall says, but fear not, we are a win streak away from being the Avs. Yeah, exactly. One win streak away from GMR, Fitz needs to look back at the championship teams. I love Sikora in 03 and hated to see him leave, but a cup win is worth trading a fan favorite. We've talked about that here a lot on this channel, GMR, where a lot of times the trades that are the most painful to make and painful to the fan base are the ones that truly move you forward. Obviously, the Sikora in that to bring Freeze in here was a big one. You know, Arnott and McKay being dealt to Dallas for Langenbrunner and Neuendijk. Like, these were all moves that really kind of, were shocking, probably to a lot of the guys in the locker room as well. But Lou did what he thought was best for the team, and those trades all play. The guys that were brought in these trades all played big parts in Stanley Cup winning teams and Stanley Cup playoff runs. Crazy stuff. Tito, thank you for the super. According to NHL insider Elliot Friedman, hockey defenseman Quinn Hughes indicated he wanted to be traded to Detroit. For some reason, I feel like Elliot Friedman's been running propaganda for Fitz for quite some time now. And that could be the case. I don't know. But in the end, there's enough stories and things out there and just common sense reasoning to know that Fitz had the inside track and did not get the deal done. At this point, I don't even care why. You want to tell me it wasn't because of cap space? Okay. Whatever the reason is, it's unacceptable. You had the inside track. Quinn wanted to come to the Devils. Jim Rutherford was willing to send him here, and you failed to land the prize. At this point, the details are pretty insignificant to me, and it doesn't matter. A generational fail is a generational fail. The nitty-gritty details don't matter. I'm sure Detroit was on his list, but I'd have to believe the Devils were number one. Mark Castro, Ace, first-time listener, long-time caller. Want to wish Boozeface the best in his future endeavors. Acting at the Galloping Hill Country Club, doing improv and stand-up. Who is this guy kidding? Let's go Devils. Oh, glad to have you, Mark. Welcome. And I have no answers, guys. Nothing has changed for me after today. It just will solidify, I think, to many that this man is not going to do the things necessary to get this team to be a true contender, and it's unfortunate. Randall says the booze for Fitzy better rain down every home game the rest of the way till he's gone. I don't think it will. Sean says the whole thing seems staged. He picked people to be in the room and asked the questions. He is useless. No, they picked the people, but it certainly wasn't staged. Because he got asked questions that he probably didn't want to talk about, but knew would be asked. I think he was rehearsed, but it wasn't staged. Like they're not colluding with some of the reporters that were there. Swamp Fox, Ace, congrats. You nailed it. The Devils will come up with an excuse to sit Kovacevic tonight. Since Keith promised Nemo he would play and Doug played so well versus Minnesota, our brain trust is too predictable. I think they've been predictable for quite some time. Just like I said, I don't think Fitz is going to get fired. I don't think he makes any meaningful trades. I think we're going to get like another Daniel Sprong-esque type player at the deadline. If anything, it's all happening in real time because he's shown us before how he maneuvers. And so it makes it very predictable. Ryder, the definition of madness is doing the same shit and expecting a different result. Glad it's all roses and daisies. Puke. It's rough, man. We got another. Thank you, the 5-star. Are we sellers now? No, I don't think so. I don't think this man is even. No, because he's married to the core. So what are you really selling? Like we don't have any of these super desirable pieces without a contract that are going to get you anything. So I don't even think there's we're definitely not going to be like full blown sellers. May he dump off a guy or two for a pick? Like it's possible, but I don't think you're ever going to see anything where you're like, oh, the Devils are sellers. Like I don't think it's going to happen. Tom, it takes two to tango. Fitzgerald. NY Isles 87. I'm an Isles fan. Over here to the east, we were saying the same thing about Lou last year. Got to keep the heads up. Listen, man, even Lou at his worst is better than what we have right now with Fitz. It's just a disaster. Pirate Tijuana. Yes, I say that because Fitz won't accept his failures, so he won't make moves to get picks and start rebuilding this core into a winner. And I still believe that a competent GM could do somewhat of a retool more so than a full-blown rebuild. Like there are decent pieces here, but you can't keep all of them. They've shown what they are as a group, but more of the same. More and more of the same. Half Naked Frankenstein. My dad got an extra ticket for me tonight. Supposed to get a wristband for food if you want me to. I'll have a lot of food on my couch. Thank you. Doug, Fitz is saying all this, but I know no moves will be made before the Olympics. I don't think there's going to be moves, period, man. Period. Joe, after that press conference, it's obvious why he hides. Yeah, they're typically not good, and they're typically kind of what we saw today. 12 years of Mickey Mouse since Lou has left. I completely agree. Stevens, my theory is he put Dougie back in strictly for other teams' value points, trade value increases instead of ongoing point drought. It could be, but Dougie's a vet. Like I've said before, I don't think his trade value is going to change much at this juncture of his career. People know what he could bring when he's at the top of his game. And maybe they did put him out there or they wanted him back out in the lineup to show that he still can bring that. And I fully expect he'll do much better on another team than he has been doing as a Devil this year. I do think the whole, attempt asking him to waive his no trade clause and stuff left some bad feelings, and it's affected his play. B-Now says maybe he didn't want to give up Nico, Mercer, Nemitz, and a pick for a guy with no contract after 1 year. Are you talking about the Quinn thing? There's no way that deal, we wouldn't need to give up that much. I don't want to keep talking about this. There was plenty of ways to make that deal happen without giving that up. David says, express your hate for Fitz by hitting like for your boy. Thanks. Hit the thumbs up. Randall says, I don't want a likable GM. I want a winner. Completely agree. Winning is all that matters. B now says, how do you know Quinn is not coming here next year? He wanted to go to... We don't know that he wanted to go to Detroit first. And if that's the case, then why wouldn't he want to go to Detroit when he's a free agent? Either way, however you want to spin this thing, he's not coming to the Devils. Their full dysfunction has been on display now for the world, and you'd have to be a lunatic to want to come here, despite your brothers being here. He's going to see what a nice organization looks like in Minnesota, and he'll stay there. NJ Swamp Fox, to think you could have interrogated Fitz today if you didn't steal that mouth-watering food at the Prue. That food's the bomb, literally. Even if that didn't happen, they wouldn't have let me go to this, despite that. But Pirate Tijuana, they all want to be back home in the Midwest. We're talking about the Hughes brothers. B now, how can owners not want to spend money when we peaked at the salary cap? because you're a complete joke if you're not a cap ceiling team. You're now giving out trophies for the owners being a cap team. Let's be real, man. Being a cap ceiling team is the bare minimum these days. Let's be real. You don't get a trophy for being a cap team. Tom, used car salesman, Fitzgerald. B now says if Quinn was a devil, everyone would love Fitz, win or lose. I don't know about everyone, but it would have got him favor with many. New Jersey Devils blood. Fitz press conference was a total joke. The guy is a blatant liar. He's a cancer in this organization, but who will cut him out? Not the owners. I think he's here for a while, folks. Banana says Fitz not knowing if Keefe's system is the same now as it was in Toronto is very concerning. You hired him and have weekly meetings that you don't know what systems he's running or has ran. I don't. For me personally, people are going to kind of nitpick at that. Like, I'm kind of okay with that. I don't need him to be, I really don't want a GM to be so super involved in the X's and O's with a coach. I think that is problematic. And so I know a lot of people kind of jumped on that. Like, I will be fair. I'm not going to jump on him for that. I'll jump on him for all the stuff that I thought is kind of jump on you worthy for, which was pretty much the rest of it. But that's not going to be one that I will personally have issue with. David Chimes says, Fitz on April 10th. I just checked the standings for the first times and realized we're not making the playoffs. But we're only a streak away. We're only a streak away. BM says, not looking at the standings reminds me of spending a bunch of money on a wild weekend in college and not wanting to check my bank account on Monday. We've all been there. We've certainly all been there. B now says, enough playing devil's advocate. Fitz said it's on him, but he did not name a single mistake that he's made. Gary, do you see a trade coming ace with Dougie Hurd? I don't know what that is, and a group of others from Utah. I mean, I don't see how you don't trade him at this point. It seems inevitable, but nothing will surprise me now. I mean, it got out that you tried to trade him. He looked like he was upset about that. Now you got to scratch other defensemen. Like, it's a problem. It's a real problem. Louis says there's no proof he was ever even available. The only way he would have even considered trading him is if Tage requested a trade out of Buffalo. YouTube OG says Fitz's hand was shaking like a leaf. Even the water on the table was shaking from his leg bounce. I didn't catch that. Dude needs to go. I have to go see that. Randall says the most pressing question was missed. Why are you still here? Steven says, if you were the next GM, what's your first moves? A lot of people have asked about this. I am going to make a video kind of about this soon. Corey says we need Dougie Gilmore. In what capacity do we need Dougie Gilmore? I love Dougie Gilmore. I'm curious what hold on one second. I gotta step out again. 1 second. We're dying. Love Dougie Gilmore, but I'm pretty sure he's chilling in Toronto. And St. Pollock Ace, would it shock you if we saw another heater from this team? No, it wouldn't. I don't think we'll get another 8 game. I do think it's possible they win like 5 in a row. That would not shock me. Ricky, Ace, what do you do for work, or is this a full-time gig now? Oh, this is certainly not a gig of any kind. This is a very time-consuming hobby. I do have a work-from-home situation right now that allows me some flexibility to do stuff like this from time to time. But no, this certainly is not a full-time gig of any kind. And quite frankly, to make a livable wage in anything like this is nearly impossible, if I'm being honest. It's pretty much impossible. What a dream that would be, but not very likely for the majority of the world. Eric, Kobe healthy scratch is odd. He's not 100%. Will this rotation continue? No. Well, it's not that odd because we've made a mess here with 4 right-hand D while trying to trade Dougie Hamilton, and that's all a function of this. he's certainly 100%, and I'm sure he's probably pissed off about this, but it is what it is. I expect on a given night, and while Dougie's still here, either Dougie, Nemo, or Kovacevic will be out of the lineup, and it's kind of wild. Kind of wild. 5-star says, you are wrong. Lou was always involved. Are you talking about on ice stuff? If you're talking about on ice stuff, Lou is a different animal. I would not to even compare Fitz to Lou in any way is a atrocity. Like I don't mind Lou being involved with that stuff, but Lou was not the norm by any means. I can't hold every GM to the Lou standards because they're not Lou in so many different ways. And quite frankly, Fitz being involved as much as Lou was, I think would be a further detriment to this team. Like, I don't want him near any of that stuff. Let the coach do their job. Now, again, Lou, totally different story, but he's not Lou. Travelin says Fitz couldn't even name more players than Dano on the championship Devils teams. He probably, but yeah, he definitely could. But the fact that Dano was right there made it super easy. Corey says I wouldn't let Fitz manage the office potluck. Oh my god. Archer, do you think the Olympics will light a fire under the butts of our players going? It would come a little late into the season, but maybe. That's always a kind of hope you have with things like this, is that, you know, these guys go out in these games in this tournament, they play with and against the best in the world, and you hope that it does kind of light a fire under their ass and they come back with some sort of spunk or jump in their game and perform at a higher level as a result. There's no guarantee that that's going to happen, and I know a lot of people are against these things, and people talk about injury risks and all this. Like, I don't care about any of that. Best on best hockey, Olympic hockey is phenomenal, and hopefully, you know, for our guys going, it does something for their games that they come back to New Jersey and play at a higher level, for sure. B now says players are all underperforming. I put half on the players and management, and the other half for no accountability. He's not going anywhere, says the insane Pollock. Mr. Snowford, all the presser did was confirm what I already knew. Fitz must go in order for us to have any chance at a cup in the future. I completely agree with that. But sadly, it seems like he's kind of locked in here. Randall says Lou in a coma is better than Fitz at 100%. Honky Lips, as a fan, we really can't any of this. Hopefully the team wakes up and makes a good run this year. They definitely can, in my opinion. It's going to take a lot. It's going to take a lot. B now, who doesn't hit the like button before they chat in here has to drink 3 shots now. Louis, ownership knows this team is cooked, but Fitz and Keefe are on relatively recent deals, and they don't want to pay the parachute for them. The end of the season is probably cooked, so no changes, save the money. Yeah, I didn't want to dig into that, but certainly seems as though they wouldn't want to be paying a guy to not do a job while having to pay someone else to do the same job. Certainly seems logical. Mark, Fitzy is in way over his head. It's painfully obvious. Stick thinks if Ace was allowed in the interrogation circle, his questions may have given Fitz a panic attack. I'm not trying to make people have panic attacks either. Like, my questions would have been on par with what Novo had asked him. Maybe I would have asked a couple that he would really not have liked, but, you know, it's all in the interest of transparency and getting some information. You know, I would have liked someone to ask, like, when do you believe this team will be able to compete for a cup? Like, flat out, like, forget the playoffs. Someone said, like, do you think this is a playoff team? Like, who gives a shit about the playoffs? I'd be like, when will this team be a cup contender? When? We went through a 10-year rebuild and we're no closer than we were several years ago. There's a lot of questions that could have been asked, but again, limited time. And so I'm sure a lot of them had some good questions that they didn't get to ask. B now, we need Brady from Ottawa, but that will never happen. Completely agree. He would be my white whale acquisition. I just can't see it ever happening, but it's nice to dream about it. I think he would change this team in so many ways. for the positive. Half Naked Frankenstein, what's up with Nico? He seems either shell-shocked or like he's on a mission. Well, he certainly was on a mission against Minnesota. David Ryan, thank you for the super. Glad Fitz squashed our fears. I actually think that not making any trades, no trade clauses, publicly fighting with agents was an issue. I can't tell if this is satire. I can't tell if this is satire or not. There's so much going on this season. It's a lot of distractions, a lot of noise. PDP, how is Luke? Luke is not an Olympian. Nico for Brady straight up. That's interesting. Again, can't see it. David Chimes, Lou and Lemaire were one of the greatest management combos in sports history, both in on changing the way the game was played and made sure every player bought in 100%. 1995 Devils are the greatest. We're so far from that, David. We are so far away from that. And it's sad, but this once proud organization does not resemble anything the old school Devils used to. David, crowd should chant fire Fitz tonight just as loud if there wasn't a press conference today. I honestly don't know that there would have been chants regardless. I don't think this changes it, but it would be funny if there were. I'm not expecting it, though. Nemitz at forward instead of Palat. That's not going to happen. I don't know why people think that you just change defensemen to forwards and like that's a thing that people do regularly. Like that's not a real thing. Sure, it's happened a couple of times ever, but it's not a common practice that people throw out as if it's like a regular thing to do. Like that's not a realistic suggestion. TJK, I'm all for boycotting and not going to games, but going tonight. Tickets were given away for free, so I will start it when they're down 1-0 early. Hopefully they win. Randall says he put Asen over Plot. Plot had a good game last night. Walt, are you going to check out any games for the Trenton Ironhawks when they debut next season? The new ECHL team that could replace Adirondack in the Devils feeder system. I'm definitely going to. I may, but it does seem like they, from the research I've done, that they want to remain independent and not have a NHL affiliation because they're kind of in Flyers territory, and being the Devils ECHL affiliate would certainly turn off a lot of Flyers fans. How is Jack an Olympian, and how do you think Luke feels? Jack is going to get the benefit of the doubt because when he's healthy, he's an explosive player, and so he will get that kind of, treatment, I guess. But Luke is nowhere near as good as Jack, so he can't feel like anything. It's like it sucks to not be as good as your brothers, but that's the case right now. That is absolutely the case. Hold on, I got to step out again. Dying. But I'm sure he wants to be in the Olympics, but be realistic. Like, you're not as good as your brothers, and USA has a lot of great defensemen, so how mad can you really be? Gary, would you take Brady and Claude Giroux for Dougie and Mercer and Palat in a second rounder? Oh my God, Gary. Gary, of course I would do that. That's one of the most unrealistic trade proposals someone has thrown up in a chat in a long time, and there's been a lot of them, but yours is just so beyond unrealistic, Gary. David says that was total satire. I'm like, sometimes I don't know anymore, David. Some people say some wild stuff, and I'm like, I don't know what's real and what's a joke. Ryan and Respect got an NJD email that they're selling tickets for the game tonight at 50% off. Absolutely a way to screw over season ticket members like me looking to sell tonight. That is a very interesting kind of perspective on all of this, right? And I never went into this in depth, and there's a lot you could pull from to talk about this, but I do think there are countless kind of examples of things like this where season ticket holders should be questioning whether there is a true value for you there. And I expect, Ryan, and respect that this is going to happen, because in the end, let's be real, they don't care about you trying to resell your tickets you already paid them for. They're more concerned about selling their tickets that are unsold for tonight as of right now. Like, your resale tickets be damned. I think that you're probably going to see a lot of things like this down the stretch of the season, because I do expect, barring this miracle turnaround, there will be some very sparse crowds, and they're going to have to continually do things like this to sell any sort of tickets. And it's unfortunate that as a season ticket holder, if you're trying to get rid of a game or something, that you will be directly negatively impacted by this, but they don't care. And I do think they're going to experience a record level of season ticket renewal drop-offs. Stick Figs, if the Suits and MSG can get a fire Drury chant going, I believe we can get a fire Fitz chant going. I mean, Stick Figs, and you've been to the Rock a couple times, right? But they're not exactly, some of these crowds are pretty dead. David, so basically what I'm getting out of this is Fitz and Keefe are pretty much secure until the end of the season. That is absolutely correct. Absolutely correct. 5-star, thank you for the super. Larry Robinson is our best coach ever. I would say it's definitely either him or Lemaire. I can make the argument for both, but those are definitely the best two by far. Ryan, respect NJD rage baiting. KCAC, long live Trenton Titans, Kelly Cup champs 2005. Tito said needs played wing. Yeah, it wasn't only for a couple games though. Ryan, respect, expected my tickets to sell low already, but 50% off is what I need to compete with. Yeah, take that bath, my friend. Take my bath. That's why I stopped I had season tickets years ago, and it just wasn't worth it for me. The value wasn't there anymore, and it was just easier to buy the games that I wanted to go to. Much easier for me. Stick Figures, you take Tage Thompson for Dodonov a second round and a round at American Whiskey. Oh, boy. Yeah, and this is the other thing, right? People talk about like all-time greats, and it's frustrating. I got into a little bit of a spat with somebody on Twitter the other day. They were talking about like Luke Hughes and Niedermeyer, and I was like, please do not disrespect Scott Niedermeyer by talking like Luke Hughes is anything like him. Like, let's be real. Niedermeyer is an all-time great. Like, how ridiculous are these comparisons? And people do it with everything. They compare this guy to it. Like you're talking about all-time greats. Please just have some realism in your arguments. David Ryan, there are a lot of good tickets in 101 to 106 going for 20. I'm not surprised. There'll probably be a good amount of empty seats tonight. PDP says, isn't Pete DeBoer available? You would imagine he is. He's not employed right now. Ryan respects says 50% off or not be damned. I'm still not going and will be selling. Unhinged, what's going on? Just watch the Fitz conference. Justin Smith, how about Pat Burns is one of the best Devils coaches ever? He's got to be in the conversation as well. He's got to be in the conversation as well. They've had a lot of good coaches, but the 3 cup winners obviously stand above the rest. Half Naked Frankenstein Ace, in your mind, is there anything Fitz could do to redeem himself in a perfect world? Resigning would be it. There's nothing he could do at this point while still having the job to redeem himself to me. Nothing. The damage is already done. Missing the playoffs in 23-24 because you wanted to hope and wish our goaltending problem would fix itself, despite the entire planet knowing that we needed just an NHL average goaltender. Did not get one, gets 2 on deadline day, way too late, missed the playoffs. It should have been sayonara for him at that point. Coming off the season we had before, that cannot be the result. It was. He should have been gone then. And then we saw what he did last year to follow that up with, punt team, Jack gets hurt and the other injuries, and you just give up on that season. Like, the damage is done. The damage is done. Take care, Randall. Richard says win the cup is about it. Winning the cup still wouldn't redeem, because we would win the cup. If somehow they did miraculously win the cup, it would be despite him. It would not be because of him. Honky Lips, I retired a few months ago. I've been debating whether or not to get season tickets next season. I will see how it goes. KCAC, I got a 14-game package. The only perk was getting to pick my games, I guess. Yeah, you could do that game at a time as well. That's what I do. Gives you ultra flexibility. I don't have to worry about selling games I don't want to go to. I can change my mind. Buy as you go is the ultimate, for me, ultimate way to go. Ride and respect, that's the way I'm going to go next year, Ace. More sense of freedom and a healthier wallet, just paying for the games I want. Yeah. It's just a much easier way to go about it. Tito says, can't we just buy out the shit contracts? Well, you can in the summer when the buyout window, I believe it's in June. You can't do it in the middle of the season, and you do pay a penalty. So I do think there's better ways to get rid of some of these contracts, or at least some way to trade them out when not having to buy them out. NY Isles, Scott Niedermayer is one of the greatest defensemen of all time. That comp is insane. Oh, I'm aware, my friend. People bring up nonsense all the time, and it pains me to engage with some of these people. And I'm like, what are we even talking about? Like Luke Hughes and Scott Niedermayer? Like, no, it's not even close. And I like Luke, but I mean, come on, you're talking about an all-time great. David Chime says Robinson was a pure legend and a top 10 greatest all-time defenseman, maybe top 5. People don't know how great he was. Second best in the 70s to Orr. Total beast. As a player and on the bench, the great Larry Robinson. And before Keefe was hired, I threw that out there and I said, I know this is very unrealistic, but when people were like, who would you pick? He was at the top of my list. Pete the Schmeat, I'm going tonight, but only because my friend had extra points for free tickets. Hope they win, but also want to hear the Fire Fitz chants. Well, you could be part of those chants, sir. David Ryan, I sold my tickets for tonight's game at 50% off a week ago. Richie, Scott Niedermayer won everything. World Juniors, World Cup, Olympic champion, 3 Stanley Cups. He won 4 Stanley Cups. He won one with the Ducks as well. Luke has won nothing. Niedermayer was a better skater, and his hockey IQ was light years better than Luke. It's all true. And I like Luke, but Niedermayer was just completely different level. Ride and respect, I thought about going because the sick part of me loves being in hostile buildings filled with the booze, but I have no energy to drag myself there tonight. Just abysmal. Totally get it, man. It's a lot less effort and everything involved to just watch from the couch. And that's certainly what I'll be doing. Pirate Tijuana, I don't see Pete, I guess DeBoer and Fitz getting along at all. That would be funny to watch, though. We just want to win. Ride and respect, I'll smile watching on TV, listening to Dano try and explain the booze. Josh Joseph says, go to games, win or lose. KCAC, buy as you go is cheaper. Yeah, and that's the biggest thing for me is like I'm always going to do the financially sensible option for the most part. And for me, the season tickets was just not it. And so I will always, barring some crazy changes down the line, will buy as I go. But I'm probably not going to many games for the rest of this season. Mark, honestly think that I'd feel better if Fitz hadn't held a presser. Dude is a certified bozo and has driven this team straight off a cliff. I mean, I can't disagree. We're supposed to be living in the most brightest of times with a true competitive team, true contender pushing for cups. And now we're talking about this team needing a somewhat, a low level miracle to even make the playoffs. It's insane. It's completely insane. David, is the penalty less when buying out a contract in the offseason? No, you can only buy it out in the offseason. I forget what the penalty is, but the penalty is what it is. They need to trade these guys and try to get rid of all the cap, include some picks if they have to. Richie, did you get my link to Fin? What the hell's Fin Factor, Richie? I have no idea what you're talking about, sir. I did not get the link. Tito, I'd love to see Brodeur play just for the hell of it. You mean like today? Or you want to go in a time machine? Ride and respect, knowing how scummy this organization has been and how damage controlling they are, Wouldn't be surprised if the boys in the MSG studio are working OT on lowering the crowd noise during the booze. That could very well happen. I could totally see that. That's a very real possibility. Not Tasha. We really have a Fitz presser when the team is doing bad before GTA 6. Ryan, respect, I haven't even watched the presser yet. Is it that bad? Well, at some point, watch it, and then if you're here for the post game, chime in on what you thought. I mean, to me, it was exactly what I expected, which is tragic. But I've thought that this man was tragic for a long time, but he just gave exactly what I expected. If I'm being real, I think it was an eye opener to many that were not as soured on this individual, but I think the general consensus was that it was pretty tragic. Unhinged Devs fan, you were right about Kova getting benched today. I'm right a lot of the times, guys. Hate to, do one of these. But I think that one I saw that one coming, and what a mess. What a mess it has become. The 25-26 New Jersey Devils. David chimes, if we bought out Dougie, wouldn't save cap next season, but would save us $4 million a year. We need to extend Nico at the cost of $1 million penalty the next 2 seasons. Not crazy if Fitz can't trade him. Not trading him would be crazy. Future's bright. Mark's calling for the shades. The future is bright. Natasha said, it's on me, so fire yourself. The stuff coming out that the analytics team strongly advised against the Plot contract and Fitz went against them and got proven wrong is mind-numbing. I think someone asked him about that, but I may have missed that part. I think he may have denied that. I don't know. Oh, Tito saying his son, Jeremy Broder. I mean, he did play a preseason game against the Rangers last season. Fire yourself. Alex is back. Some strange answers. Not Tasha just got home when I saw Fitz held a presser. I was flabbergasted, and I read the article on it. It just seemed like all the expected stuff, at least expected from what I expected. A lot of people, I think, were disappointed with it, but I don't know what you were expecting when he finally reemerged from witness protection. Yeah, Kovacevic coming out of the lineup today, as your boy predicted after the last game. Ryan respects because they don't know how to manage a team, Tasha. David chimes, no offense, no offense. Keith, 19th, 5-on-5 expected goals for, not all finishing. Consider what most of the Uncle Puckers are saying. I don't know what they're saying, but I'm still going to hold the players more responsible for this than Keith, because in the end, the players are on the ice, not scoring. But maybe Keith should tweak some things. That's not to say that he's perfect. Maybe he should look to tweak some things that they're doing. Krizlat Nemitz getting traded. Fitz was more on re-signing Grits and down on Nemo. I mean, that would be sorry. Richie Ace was on with the boys from San Jose last night, this morning. The Finn factor. I jumped in at the 48-minute mark, and the Hamilton discussion was wild with their fans. They want him. Put the link in the chat. I mean, I could see. I mean, he's a veteran. I mean, why? It makes sense. Now, does Dougie have any interest in going there? Totally different story, but I could see their fans wanting it to happen. B now says Fitz said what I thought he would. All very corporate friendly answers. Natasha Kovacevic is a big part of this organization, hence the no move clause. My personal guess is he wants Dougie playing to up his trade value. How much is it going to go up, though? Like, teams, they're taking a little bit of a chance no matter what. Make a deal. Pirate Tijuana, so ownership isn't going to buy out of anyone. Half Naked Frankenstein, after digesting this presser a bit, I feel like he said several fireable things gaslighter. I think so too, but he's not going anywhere. And to say you don't look at the standings is just wild, like completely wild. That's like saying, you're the president, you're the president of a company and you don't look at the sales reports. Like, how? Mark, Ace, maybe your next prop is a fake phone to represent how hard you're working the phones. He's lighting them up, but it takes two to tango, guys. It takes two to tango. El Schneider says, who cares what Fitz had to say? My problem is that he is still there to say it. Very well said. Very well said, but you had to know this was coming, guys. I said nothing's going to happen, unfortunately. Louis, thanks for the fun, Ace. Have to get back to work. See you on the post game. Take care, Louis. Dougie did decline San Jose in the summer. Now, does their performance this season change his mind at all? Maybe it does. Maybe he doesn't want to be in Cali. Maybe that option is still there. I don't know. If a team's actively trying to trade you and you could go to a situation like that, I certainly would be like, let's get it done. Would love to go to San Jose. Half Naked Frankenstein. I said I was done with Keefe, but I think it really is on the players to play the right way. Palat nailed it with defense leads to offense. Immature group that needs to give their nuts a tug. Ride and respect. I have more faith in becoming a millionaire by 2027 than I do in this team becoming competent in the next 5 years. I'm down too, man. And days like this don't make it any, where is the light at the end of the tunnel, right? Like, I can't tell you that there is one. David Chimes, we're a passing and finesse offense with some lunch pail ability. Keefe runs us as a shot volume offense. Wrong approach for personnel and a reason why finishing numbers stink. So what changes would you like to see specifically? NJ Devils 37. Imagine if we trade Dougie to SJ and we got Revo. SJ probably wouldn't do it, but one can dream. I like Revo, but I don't think he's bringing anything at this point other than fighting. And that's why I liked McEwen. He looked like a guy who really could be a nice fourth line piece. But Olivier got him good the other day. Tito says, who we have is who we have the rest of the year. Certainly seems that way. Chris Ladd, knowing the way this franchise works, Dougie gets hurt playing and we can't trade him. That'd be terrible. David Ryan, I question the timing of this press conference. I think he had it scheduled because he was going to hold it after Keefe firing if they lost to the Wild. It's possible. I did speculate that could happen, but now based on what Fitz said, I don't think firing Keefe was ever on the table, honestly. I think he's been fine the whole time. And that was just kind of people looking for a story. Natasha, the comment on the Quinn stuff, he totally lied about. It was all about the cap. He was just trying to save face. But why does that make it any better? I guess it's he thinks, or the team thinks it's better to just say you didn't lose out on him because of cap space versus something else. I don't know. Ride and respect. I mean, look, we've been begging Fitz to show a pulse. At the very least, I'm glad he came out of hiding just to help our cause if the presser was actually that bad. Ride and respect. I hope that is the last presser in Fitz's NJD career. Half Naked Frankenstein, seems like Dougie and his new wife live in NYC. Dougie for Trocheck. Yeah, I think he likes the area, and that probably plays a big part of it. Pirate Tijuana, this morning I read someplace that Dougie turned down Utah trade this summer as well. That's interesting. Where was that? Jimmy Mack, I just got out of work. I have no clue what's going on. I would say go watch the Fitz press conference and then watch this after that at some point. David Chimes, I could answer that question about changes I'd like to see with longer than YouTube text boxes. The types of goals last game are the stuff our system doesn't set up enough. Is it the system or that these guys don't want to go chase pucks down and smash guys? Natasha, looking at some of these comments, you don't know if it's the same system Keefe used in Toronto. Fitz is actually an imbecile. Ride and respect. Dallas Stars are always my go-to team in the playoffs when the Devils inevitably always miss. Would love to see them pull through. CNJ Dev. Keefe should be fired after the season, but I'm not sure firing him during the season will do any good. At this point, outside of making big trades, I don't think most things are going to do much of anything. David Ryan says, I don't believe a word Fitz says. Jimmy. David Ace, what is your prediction tonight as a score? I'll go 3-1 Devils. 3-1 Devils. Natasha, did Fitz say anything about the Luke booing? No excuse for not making a simple statement to the fans and letting your players take all the heat. No one brought that up, actually. It may have been on a list of topics people would have eventually got to. But unless I don't think I missed it. I don't think that was brought up. All right, folks. I think that's it. Unless anyone has anything else. Had to do double duty today. A rare double duty. 2 lives in one day. We got a Fitz press conference out of nowhere. And the big game tonight. We'll be back with the post game live. Ride and respect. I'm looking at the secondhand market prices right now. You'd think you were buying tickets to an art convention. I took a look. They are pretty abysmal. That's what happens when you have a struggling team. When you are a struggling team, it looks like $15 will get you in, which is pretty cheap. Oh, yeah. Tons of lowers for... Yeah, it's a bloodbath. It's a bloodbath out there. Yeah, tickets are dirt cheap. Dirt cheap tickets. Dirt cheap. Dry fly. The reason Dougie came back into the lineup is because Fitz was feeling the heat being compared to Drury. He backtracked after the backlash to make it look like it was performance based. Natasha, right time to go and actually watch the presser. See everyone later. Let's take care. Be now. Art convention. Natasha, Fitz definitely saw all the hate over him not doing a presser, and management forced him into it because it's an awful look. It was an awful look, but now that he did it, what did it make anything better? I would say no. Half Naked Frankenstein, I heard they caught Novo stealing food. I doubt it. Ride and respect, me too, Tasha. I hope I have brain cells left afterwards. See you later, Tito. Traveling enough relying on the rush to score. Build a second and third line that can win battles. Score down low and get the goalie off his game. Leave the rush game to Jack's line. I like that. We got Half Naked Frankenstein. Let's go Devils. Tasha, I'm probably going to go to one of these super cheap upcoming games. Hopefully get club seats. Mario, how dare you start a live when I'm in school? I just got home to see I missed some live. Well, go watch the Fitz presser, my friend. Curious to see what you take from it. But that's it, guys. I'm dying out here. Got to recover. We got a game in 4 hours or less than 4 hours. But, yeah, Tom Fitzgerald. Wrapping up the Tom Fitzgerald press conference. Nothing great, in my opinion. Nothing great at all. In fact, it was kind of sad. But I'm curious. I guess we'll hear later on some more people will, by the time the game's over, more people would have watched it. And I guess it'll definitely be a topic mentioned in the post game live by many people that weren't here for this or had not watched it yet. But that's it, guys. Watch the press conference. Draw your own conclusions. I'm curious to see what you guys take away from it. It's more of the same in my perspective and did not change a damn thing, but we'll see. Devils taking on the Kraken tonight at the Rock. Hopefully they find a way to win. Hopefully they look like that team we saw in Minnesota, and hopefully we are drinking victory drinks after the game in the post game live. I'll certainly see some of you later. Thank you all for watching. I love you all. Like, comment, subscribe, and all that jazz. Until next time, friends, let's go Devils.